Let's talk about reality, hey? I love reality. I can't. Right. So what I want to do in this video is do like a chronological timeline of reality, or at least as much as we understand reality or what's talked about or the possibilities or the observations of it. Right from start, and I'll try and do it in a chronological order. I think that makes most sense. Because like building a building, if you haven't built the first floor and its structure and foundation, you can't build the second floor. I hope that makes sense because there's nothing to build on, so can't do it. So let's start from the beginning, or an idea of the beginning. So we have nothingness and Big Bang. And I will skip through these because, again, going from the, well, not skip, but I will not go in depth. But as I explained in the first video, none of us were there to witness and measure what happened. And I do not care if people say, because again, you don't know if we can say, but by, microwave background radiation of the universe, we have an idea, therefore we can calculate. Great. None of us were there to witness and observe it. Therefore, we cannot know. Accept that fact. Have enough humility and enough goodness, decency, self-control to admit I wasn't there. I cannot say for sure this is how it happened because I didn't observe it. I didn't measure it. I didn't record it. That's that. As much as that might infuriate you, too bad. You don't know everything. You can't know everything. That's just how it is. So I'm not going to talk about all the possibilities because, again, here's the thing. They are possibilities. They are ideas, concepts, and measurements that we have now, or things that we can do now to try and reconstruct what we believe most likely happened. See the words there? Reconstruct, believe, most likely. We don't know. And that is how you talk about these things. Not, statements like 13.7 billion years ago. No, that's a statement. That's not a roundabout, possibly from our calculations. I know it's extended, long-winded talking, but at least it's truthful. We believe from our calculations that we have now that this could have been how the universe formed. But people don't talk like that. 13.7 billion years ago, there was nothing, and then everything came into existence with a big bang. You can't say that because you don't know it to be true, so don't make a truthful statement, because it isn't one. Anyway, but let's go over it. We have nothing. And I'll talk about the main ideas and concepts of reality, because again, there's no definite one that we can know. So I'll go over the main ones and the possible sub ones. Nothing, and then everything. Let's stop right there. I'm sure this is not the first time you've thought about this. I'm sure it's not the first time you've heard it debated on, talked about. As far as we understand things, and this is where I like the two-facedness of the argument, the hypocrisy, is that we can admit we don't know when it doesn't fit with our model, right? It's like there's nothing and then there's everything all of a sudden in an instant. And science and physics and our human understanding goes, that's impossible. And at this moment we turn around and be like, yes, but we don't understand everything about the universe, so there is a way that it could do this, that, and the other. Right, so keep that train of thought and go, well, is it possible that that didn't happen at all? Oh, no. We have very good reason. The hypocrisy of it, the two-faced, silly sausage-ness of it does my head in. You have nothing and then you have everything. How does that happen? Oh, we can't explain it. We don't know. Great. Stick with that. Say you don't know. I don't know. That's it. Don't keep going on with it. Postulate all you want, but say I'm postulating. I'm hypothesizing. I'm doing the best I can. But no, we must put it in fact. We must know. We must be seen as gods. We must be seen as the intellect of the universe because we can know, and the pride and the oof. You can tell it bothers me. That doesn't make any sense. Nothing, something, or nothing and everything. One of the problems with that is, in this universe with something, you can't have nothing and then something. And this is a really hard one. This is something you can sit there and it's like trying to contemplate what infinity means, or eternity, right? Or the possibility of an infinite universe, or the possibility of infinitely small measurements or infinitely large ones. It's just things that are so beyond you, you can spend a very long time trying to comprehend them. And if you get there, if you have the humility and the wisdom and being blessed with the comprehension to be able to get these things, you realize, wow, I don't know a lot. I know this one very small, I believe this one very small thing that I've been clued onto. But to comprehend nothingness is near impossible because it doesn't exist. Nothingness does not exist anywhere. See how I made a statement there? I believe, or as far as I can tell, or you could say that the fact that there is something means that there could never be nothing. That's what I should say. I don't want to fall into the lazy category of talking, saying, oh, this is the fact, when I would be a hypocrite at that point. The fact that there is something means that there could never have been nothing. And some people might think, well, why? You know, there's nothing in a box, and then I put something in the box. There is something in the box. There's dust, oxygen, there's chemical compounds, there's space. Time is, the box is passing through time. There's so much within the box. Bacteria, dust mites. Oh, what about in a vacuum, right? Or even in a vacuum, even if you had a perfect vacuum, or light passes through it, oh, that's something, right? Sound waves can pass through and reverberate through it. Well, not really. Energy can pass through a vacuum. Right. So where's your nothing? Where does nothing... Oh, a black hole. No, a black hole is probably where the most of everything is, right? Black hole is a nothing. Just because no light escapes from it doesn't mean there's nothing in there. So much falls in there. And you can talk about Hawking radiation because information is believed that it can't disappear. So it's like a... Anyway, you cannot find nothing. And then someone might say, well, there was nothing at some point, and then everything came into being. It doesn't work like that. And you know it. Everything that you can observe and understand, it doesn't work like that. Nothing works like that. That's the only nothing there is. Anyway, I hope that is clear, because I don't want to go on and on and on and on. I just want to try and prove the point and then move on. And each person's different. The amount of convincing, the amount of ideas, concepts, the amount of rebuttal and foundation that each person needs is different. But I'm not going to try and drag it out for the most stubborn of people and waste people who have a bit more common sense and humility. So once we have everything, then postulated and thought that you had everything you needed in a very small point, and then it expanded, exploded, and cooled down, and formation of the universe. I'm sure you've seen it on a wonderful YouTube video before, the explanation. Okay, great. I can go with the eventually you have something and then it has everything, because sure, you can compress things, as far as I understand, keep compressing and compressing and compressing to a small enough point. And science would say, well, that's a black hole, so why did it explode and not collapse on itself? Right? So that's what happens if you get matter, which the universe is made of, mostly, and well, it has more of it than antimatter, I should say. You have more empty space than matter, but more matter than antimatter, which is a problem I'll get to in just a second. Stay tuned. If you have everything in such a large amount of mass compressed into such a small space, it's meant to collapse in on itself. That's how you get a black hole. It's one of the ways you get a black hole, or the only way that I know of that you can get a black hole. And that's not what happened. It went out instead. And sure, maybe it's because it was like the peak form of a black hole where it no longer can go in, it has to go out. I don't know. But sure, you have something start to expand into nothingness, space, whatever it is, because there isn't space to begin with. Remember, there's nothing. Right, doesn't make sense. But let's just move on from there. We have space and the universe starting to form. Now here's the next thing I come to. I'll stick to simpler things in this video. I don't want to talk about, universal constants and formation of, compounds and chemicals and complex chemicals and formations and things. Anyway, the universe should have an equal amount of matter versus antimatter. There should be equal and opposite forms of matter. And we don't. As far as the scientific community is willing to accept, and I'm glad that they do. I'll take that. Again, I can't know that because I can't measure all that. But as far as it is explained and understood, there's not an equal amount of matter versus antimatter. Why? Why? And the answer is we don't know. Doesn't make sense. No, it doesn't make sense. Because if there was, as far as I understand, an equal amount of matter versus antimatter, it would eventually cancel itself all out. Because when matter and antimatter meet, it becomes energy again, right? So you go back to having energy and perfect, moving on to perfect entropy, which is like this perfect balance, evenness of everything, like an even soup of energy and heat and whatnot. But there isn't. There's so much more matter, stuff, in the universe. Like somebody just added some more in there. Okay, well that doesn't make a lot of sense. And I'm purposefully dodging a certain topic at this point in these videos, which is fine because it doesn't need to come up as much as I want to bring it up. Then I will go to the next thing being life, right? Because you can have matter, mass, energy, heat, and all of that, and not have life. It's totally possible and should have been how the universe was, if we believe that it formed the way that it did. But life came from somewhere. And this one does my noodle in. The ideas of how life formed. We do not know how life formed. We do not know, nor can we recreate or imagine the circumstance within reason of how life could form anywhere in the universe. Anywhere. And for anyone who, because once you start talking about life and evolution, oh my goodness, does it just not burn a fire under people's bums? You do not know how life is made. You almost certainly cannot prove, and again, watch the first video if you have not, okay, about knowing something and having genuine knowledge. You don't know. So if everyone's, oh, no, we know, and it had to be like this. You don't know. You don't. And the best scientists in the world, as far as I've seen them and they've been exposed to the public, don't know either. They have ideas and possibilities. If we had better labs, more energy, a better understanding of the types of energy, if we could control, dark energy, possible. Again, theories, ideas, beliefs, fantasy, really. But we can't do it. We don't know how. We don't even have a good idea. So where does life come from? And this is where I'm going to just swing the bat. There are supposed intelligent, reputable minds that come out and say things like, and I'll just go with my favorite, that life could have come from higher forms of intelligent alien species. Human life could have been seeded. And how did their life start? Because they're still life. They're still intelligent life, to whatever that is. It doesn't have to look like us. How did their life start? You've literally just done a circle. That's all that is. That is the most ridiculous thing. It's not what my frustration was to say that's one of the most ridiculous things you could ever say. Life came from other life. Yeah, no bananas. Really? Oh, but it's aliens and they're different from us and they've made little human cell things and... Well, how did they start? Oh, there were probably other aliens before them and they made them... You're going around in circles. What a ridiculous thing to say. You might as just well have said, well, humans made humans. Life made life. Yeah, you don't think? Life made life? Oh, but there wasn't life at the start of the universe. Oh, what did I say? But to come back down to sensible town, oh, that rhymed. There is no known mechanism of how life, and if you want to get into it, because I will, let's just get into it a bit, especially once we came to the understanding of DNA and RNA, and even with our understanding now, we're like, wow, that's amazing and complex. But DNA and RNA are intelligible code. Decipherable, readable code. And I'm sure most people should have a knowledge of this. Like you code a program in a computer using binary, which is 101010, or whatever other form of code you use. It is a type of script. It is a writing. And I don't need to even go into the, ooh, it comes from an intelligent... No. I don't even need to do that. It is common sense, because that's how things work. And it is one of the most beautiful codes you can have. It's better than binary. And that just... Besides the fact people, because there's this what's it? A book can't make itself, right? It's like if you had ink and paper, and it's just like, well, even you got a problem there. Where'd the ink come from? How'd the ink get to that place? How did the paper get made? Oh, okay, well, maybe you just have a tree. Great, well, how did the tree get there? Oh. Basically, the story is if you had ink and paper and smashed them together or did it a billion times, eventually you get an intelligible book. No, great, I get what you're going for. It doesn't work like that. Because the problem is you need the printer to make the code. You need the ink and the book to make the book. And the code is written by the life form. And people say, oh, it could have just all fallen perfectly and then been bounced. You were just literally making fantasy ideas. You're making fantasy ideas. It's most ridiculous thing ever. It is probably the most proud, one of the most, because I can't say the most, it is one of the most proud, ridiculous ideas and sentiments in the world. Where life came from, how it was made. Especially now that we understand how complex it is, how well written it is, the fact that it is a written thing, it is a type of code. And people are so desperate to find some magical, nonsensical way for it to have just accidentally happened, because this is all an accident. They're nothing from something and it all just came about. Is stupid. It is stupid. So you have life. Where does it come from? And there's other stupid things like, life could have been single-cell organisms on a comet, because there's ice frozen on there and it could have, survived in the vacuum of space, in the ice, blah, 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 landed on Earth at the perfect time. None of that matters, because how did the thing get made? How did the single cell get made to begin with? You don't know. What's so wrong with saying, I don't know? And then just looking for a sensible way to know. So moving on, we have life. And then the next thing would be evolution, right? Because you have life and then life evolves. I think this would need to be its own video. Is there something simple I can say about evolution? I'm going to keep this one short because evolution is a big bag to unpack, and lots of people have done videos like this. But again, I'm trying to take this simple pathway and basically show how each point of it is basically impossible. Big bang, nothing to something, not possible. Yeah, universe turning, well, you could even say the fact that it didn't become a black hole and revert into itself because it's so much everything compressed into a finite space. Excuse me. And then you have, the fact that there's more matter than antimatter. Impossible as far as we understand. Then you have life just coming out of nowhere. Well, impossible as far as we understand. So this whole point, every step of it is impossible. Now we'll go into evolution, right? I'm not going to say evolution is not impossible. I think it's stupid. I think the fact that it is so factually accepted, like this is definitely, like all of this, Big Bang definitely happened, all these things definitely happen, evolution definitely a thing. When, I'm sorry, we haven't been around for the existence of the universe. We haven't been recording the existence of the universe. We haven't been recording. You cannot record the time scale it is, and this is common sense, everybody knows this. So the fact that it's so like, oh, it's definite though, it's evolution, it's definitely a thing. We haven't recorded it. Oh yeah, no, you haven't. No, you haven't. Simply put, evolution, as far as it's talked about, let's just be general. Again, we're going to talk about things in a general sense. I'll make a long video about evolution. I think it's ridiculous, so maybe I don't have the motivation. Talking about massive timescales, millions of years, billions of years, hundreds of millions of years to do certain things, right? Or even on the smaller scale of tens of thousands of years. Sorry, but no one's recorded that long. Oh, but the fossil records have. No? How do you know that? Oh, because we can carbon date them this. No. You weren't there. You weren't there. You're taking estimates and calculations from what you can perceive now in this short time frame of our current understanding of how things decay and operate and chemically bind and unbind to say for sure that this is how everything happened. You can't, that's not how it works. That's not a definite. That's an estimation. That's a probability, a possibility. It is not a fact. We haven't been there. No one has been recording the 13.7 billion years. No one's been recording the millions of years of complex life formations on Earth. You are guessing. You are assuming. You're trying to come up with something. The thing is, people will say, let's use the Galapagos Islands finches with their special beaks. Or this bird has a slightly different beak to this bird. And again, it's not a good example. Evolution doesn't have a good example. That's why it sounds ridiculous. I'm using, birds with different beaks. Because that's what we've got. Not all of it, of course. I can just keep going on, but I don't want to extend this. I'll just try and keep it simple. You're trying to say that birds who have adapted to live in slightly different ecosystems or environments, having to undergo different difficulties and situations, possibly different ways to get their food source, have changed the way that their beak forms, therefore evolution. Well, if I get a labor-intensive job where I'm lifting bags of cement over my shoulders or whatever, and I do that as a full-time job, guess what's going to happen to this scrawny bicep? It's going to grow and change. And you know what else will probably grow and change? The density of the bone within there. My veins will enlarge. My skin color will change as well because I'll be out in the sun and my skin will become dark. So I'll come back with possibly blonder hair, larger frame, larger mass, different size veins, darker skin, stronger muscle formation, different looking face probably because the sun damaging my skin. How am I not evolved at that point? That is a macro, that's super macro changes. And that is all depending on my environment and what I am doing. If I sit inside on a computer on my bum doing computer work, don't get sun, don't exercise as much, don't eat as healthy, yada, 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 lifestyle change, circumstance, environmental change, and then I were to change that all of a sudden, so much of my appearance and physiology would change even in a short amount of time. I'm talking like less than a year. I could look entirely different. And people have seen this. We celebrate it. Oh, look, he's lost so much weight and he's got a wonderful tan, and look at his hair, it looks so healthy, and this, that, and the other, and he's jacked as. He looks entirely different. Well, didn't he just undergo evolution? Oh, no, it's not the same thing. Well, how is that not the same thing to some birds being like, oh, I can't get these seeds, I'm going to keep trying, so the shape of the beak changes. Oh, well, that's a hard structure on their face. Yeah, you know what happens if you keep putting pressure on certain bones and keep twisting and contorting them? They'll eventually warp. You can see that with soft cartilage as well, but even hard things like bones, yeah, that's what happens. Why couldn't it happen to birds? Does my head in. If I had to put it simply, what we can observe is life forms adapting. It's adaptation, right? That's not evolution. And I'll say one more thing that I'm sure most people learn in like their biology class, if they do it. When a male and female organism, if it's a male and female organism, it's different for, single sex organisms, but male and female organisms will use the human race, and many other male and female organisms are like that, come together and procreate and have offspring. You get a certain amount of information from the male and a certain amount of information from the female, right? And then that gets split and combined to, not exact terminology, to then make the code, the DNA, for the offspring. Now, what happens, and I'll just use simple terms so it's easy. Let's say you have 100% of the male's genetic information and 100% of the female's genetic information. The offspring does not have 200% information now at this point. They take 50%, again, make it simple, 50% from the dad of the genetic information, 50% of the genetic information from the mother, and they themselves now have 100%. But what they have is lost 50% of information from their father, or the male, and 50% of the information from the female. And then that happens again. So what happens is every time procreation happens, information is lost, not gained, lost. And to make it give you a point, it's like if you have blue-eyed female, brown-eyed male. As far as we understand, brown eye is the dominant gene here, and they procreate most likely brown-eyed offspring to a degree of like maybe 1 in 16, depending on the parents before that. But let's just say a 1 in 16 chance that the child has blue eyes, which is the recessive gene, to brown eyes. Eventually, what's going to happen is that blue-eyed, unless you continue to just have blue-eye, matchups after that, which it doesn't even matter, you will lose the brown-eyed gene or the blue-eyed gene. You lose information. You don't gain information, because remember, you have two sets of possibilities, variables, a blue-eyed set and a brown-eyed set. Eventually, after enough procreation, only one of those sets will be left, not both in a stronger degree. Hello, doggies. So simply, information, genetic information, is lost when procreation happens. And I can understand some people say, well, that's not how evolution happens. Right, yeah, mutations, right? Mutations which then become, through natural selection, a more dominant or efficient genetic pool. You're trying to say that in the let's just even say thousands of years that takes, that you're going to gain more information than is lost through a few generations of procreation. No! Do your math! Do your math! So much more information is lost before anything is gained. You have a mutation, even if it's a real strong one, and then that person, mates with someone else, and then it passed down. Sure, that gets passed down to a point, right? But at what point is it lost? Because it's going up against other members of that species who do not have that mutation. So it gets worn out, it gets weakened out, like the blue eye or the brown eye. You expect that it just doesn't, mathematically it doesn't work. A few generations and that thing is gone. And again, someone might argue and say, oh, well, it's such a strong gene. Where is that observed? Where? Where do we see that happen? And some might say, well, the brown eye, you just said that. It's a dominant gene. That's not a mutation. Brown eyes are not a mutation. They're a set dominant gene. Set. Not some mutation. They are set. Everybody can have that. Well, it's not true, but throughout the whole species. It's not some one mutation that someone had. Anyway, moving on for evolution, because that could go on forever and ever, forever. Next, where do we go to from here? I'll talk about, this will be the last thing to talk about in the timeline that we're doing right now. The perfect balance of the universe. And I mean the universe, not just the Earth and a small ecosystem. I mean the universe, the perfect balance of the universe. Beautiful. And it doesn't matter if you look in mathematics, chemistry, biology, physics, wherever you look, there's such a beautiful balance. There's such order, rhythm, patterns everywhere. You can't look somewhere and be like, there's no patterns. You go random number generator. No, it's not random. It's a pattern. It's a pattern. Pitter patter. It's a pattern. It runs off an algorithm, right? It's not really random. Randomness doesn't happen. Here's the doggies again. Hello. I want to play with the dog. There is such beautiful order and structure to the universe. And if I had to simplify it, again, because this is one way, it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't matter where you look, there is such precise measurements, such precise functions of every part of the universe, every part of it, that I can see and understand, that I've been told. I can't measure it, we already know that, talking in generals here. I don't think I can give a good example of something like this because it demands such a wide scope of understanding. They're trying to grasp such a large picture. But the one that I was going to give a general idea is the perfect, until human beings stuff it up, balance of an ecosystem. And I mean flora and fauna, bacteria, whatever. Just everything. This eats that, that eats this provides for this coexists with that. They're perfect flow and balance between everything is so like immense of how does that happen? And to be honest, no one can do that. No one can comprehend all the life forms just on this planet. Not that there are life forms on other planets, not that I care about this one first. All the life forms and forces and elements and seeds, all of it. The fact that it all just works no human being that I can assume, guess, and fairly confidently say can comprehend and calculate and really say for certain, oh yeah, that's a possibility. That's just a nice, happy accident that it all happens like that. No. Yeah, I don't have a good one for this. It's more of a philosophical thing that you gotta think about and really say to yourself, well, it's hard. It's like even just trying to understand how all the complexity that goes on within your own body or one part of your body, your brain itself, just your heart. Yeah, too much. Anyway, I'll wrap that one up. If you have any questions, you're welcome to ask. Also, if you have topic ideas for a video that you think is quite interesting, you're welcome to share those. Cool. See ya.